Hi guys, welcome to Origin. One thing that's always quite bugged me is the concept of growing out of something. And I've heard it quite a few times, oh, you'll grow out of liking metal, you'll grow out of having hair like this. As if one day I'm just going to turn around and say, well, hey, you know what, this is pretty stupid, I think I'll just get it cut. Now, I don't know how many people are still watching this channel, but if there's any younger people in the audience, I just want to tell you what my experience of that has been, just in case it bothers you as much as it bothers me. I'm coming up on 24 and coming up on 5 years of having done this channel, and in that time a lot has changed. See, back then I did, well, not exclusively, but almost exclusively like metal. I did have long hair like this, I still do, as you can see. And I used to wear this huge black leather trench coat. Today there's no style of music that I can honestly say I don't like. I haven't worn that trench coat in a couple of years. I've still got it, but I've just not worn it in quite a while. Really since I left uni. And I'm going to cling on for dear life to this. So let's start with metal. Back then, my favourite bands were, people like Linkin Park, Static X, and I was just getting into Faith No More. And that's really where it snowballed and became everything. Now, what happened was, I didn't suddenly think, oh, this music's immature, and so I'll stop listening to it. What happened was that particular bands that I were listening to at the time, I mean, some of them have gone on to do completely different things now. Like, especially Linkin Park, their last couple of albums have been completely different to what they did before. But the music, in terms of its musical structure, was all quite simple, and I mean, that's not always a problem. I mean, 4-chord songs can be really good. But the other problem, the more important one, is that a lot of it just all sounded the same. And in the case of Static X, it all ended quite quickly when I think I heard the song Cannibal, because, I mean, it didn't just sound like what had came before, there wasn't really anything new to it, and it was ridiculously, overly simple. But after that I got into bands like Metallica, and their music isn't simplistic. They have huge, 8-minute long songs, and some of the stuff they do is really inventive. They don't just stick to endlessly playing the same riffs over and over again. So in my case it had absolutely nothing to do with maturity, it was just wanting to find something different. And I did. And now on to the trench coat, and really just the way I look in general. Now, a lot of people who listen to metal have coats a lot like the one that I just described. They're really long, they almost touch the floor, and in my case I think sometimes they actually did. It depended on whether I was wearing shoes, what kind of shoes I was wearing. But I bought it really because I liked the Matrix. It had more to do with that than metal. But it wasn't, oh, I wanted to look like Neo, it was just, I saw the jacket and I thought, I really like that, I wanted to, I wanted one of my own. Now, up until my last year of uni, I would wear it all the time, apart from in summer when it was, well, I say hot, here it doesn't really get above, at the very most 25 degrees Celsius or 77 degrees Fahrenheit, but yeah, I mean, it's not the kind of thing you want to wear when it's really hot. But in my last year, I just wore it to uni, and at that point I was really just wearing it because it was practical. I could put all my pens and rulers and stuff in the pockets. I wouldn't have to open my bag and get everything out there, because that just takes me a long time. Now, when I wore this coat, a couple of times, I mean, there were things said, like one of them I remember very clearly, I was called a vampire. And when stuff like that happens, when complete strangers say vampire, I mean, it wasn't a huge blow. I didn't really give a second thought about it, although I do still remember it, that's got to be saying something. But what really happened was that my friends started to look less like I did. they toned down the kind of jackets they wore. Most of them now have even cut their hair to normal length. And so the point I want to make here is that it's all relative to what's going on around you. When your friends aren't wearing all this stuff, you start to feel like you stand out. It takes a lot more mentally to wear something that no one else is around you than when, other people are wearing it and so explicitly tell you that it's acceptable. But when they're not, when they've all stopped doing it, you kind of start to get this sense of, do they think I'm weird for still doing it? And they never said anything. They never even really gave me any looks to put that suggestion in my head. It just kind of happened. You just start to feel like you're more, you're more exposed, if you like. It depends how much you care about what other people think. And of course, a lot of us like to tell ourselves that we don't care. It's quite a popular thing to believe, but I can't say that honestly, because, well, surely what I've just said is proof of that. So what growing out of it meant in that context was peer pressure. Other people stopped doing it, so the implicit pressure kind of made me stop as well. So now the hair is all that's left. But I think the peer pressure's the important point here, because it explains a lot of things that you grow out of. When you're a teenager and you do all the classic teenager things like, go out with your friends drinking when you're too young to do it. You do that because your friends are doing it. Like I've seen certain documentaries, and you see what teenage life is like in other countries, and well, maybe not even throughout that entire country. Maybe, maybe that particular group of teenagers is an exception. Who knows? But they're completely different. They don't see going out and drinking as being cool or fun. But let's face it, if you went to that school where teenagers are completely different and they don't see drinking and doing all that stuff as acceptable, would you do it? Could you do it? Could you mentally go against all of that peer pressure? So maybe describing the change in behaviour as growing out of it is a way to deal with bowing to that peer pressure. Is a way of glorifying it instead of, maybe looking at it as a more negative thing because you've lost part of your individuality. You've gone with the crowd. And whether bowing to that peer pressure is a good thing or a bad thing, I don't have an opinion on it. It's simply something that happens, something will inevitably happen, and let's face it, to go against that peer pressure takes a lot of, mental power, and clearly I don't have enough of it to, well, let's face it, I've lost the jacket to it. But with that understanding, maybe for at least a few more years anyway, I can keep this hair. Now I want to hear from you guys. Does that sound a lot like your experience of growing out of things, or has yours been completely different? Am I a one-off? I would really love to hear what you guys have to say about that. Yeah, social norms. You can take my jacket, but you'll never take my hair. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.